All right, we are back. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Rob Ellis, Derek Gunn, and Barrett Brooks. Always great to have our first guest of the day on and get his insights on everything Eagles, NFL, national correspondent from ESPN, Sal Paolantonio. Sal, Happy New Year, my man. How we doing?
By the way, I love that music. That music was nice.
We've upgraded.
There we go. There you go.
That was good. That's some old school good stuff right
That's
there.
right. It was.
That's
There
right,
it was.
man.
Yeah.
Sal, so first off, man, so much to get to, but I want to start with this. For all the good that's happened this year for a team that's 14-3, for everything, the sack record, blah, 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 all the things that they've done, would you tell me if you think this is true? There's a little bit of apprehension in the Delaware Valley, a little bit of angst, if you will, in the Delaware Valley, even though this team had such a good regular season because of the way it closed. Fair or not, do you buy into the momentum thing going into the playoffs?
That's why we love it. Dynamic tension, fun and laughter for all, right? That's what Philly is all about, Rob. Listen, you got a guy there who made a Super Bowl run. And he will tell you the season starts over in the playoffs for everybody.
Absolutely.
It starts over. And that's what coaches preach. That's what players talk about with one another. Forget what happened in the regular season. Now, if there are holdover major injuries to deal with, then there are things that have to be fixed. So you got 10 days to get Jalen Hurts' shoulder right. So what did they accomplish against the Giants? I think the number one thing is they survive in advance. Again, you got a player there. He never played 17 games in a season. I was around the league last week just talking to players with the Bengals and the Ravens last week. It's hard to play 17 games. It really is. I don't think people understand when they went from 16 to 17 how difficult that was for body acclimation, just to get ready and play. And people look at it and say, all right, well, they're getting paid big money. But, it's a lot of car accidents that you're going through a year. Right. And you add another week of it. So you want to survive that week. The other thing I think, Rob, is this. The Eagles stabilized where they were, right? They had to win the game. They had to find out if Jalen Hurts could do what he does with a restrictor plate applied,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
That NASCAR term, I think, is appropriate here.
Yes, it is.
Jalen Hurts was applied, the restrictor plate, by Nick Sirianni or Howie Roseman or Jeff Lurie or whoever, that's what we saw. So they're going to take it off a little by little over the next 10 days. And at some point, we'll see the full Jalen Hurts. But I think they stabilized. They survived in advance. They stabilized. They saw what they needed to see from Jalen Hurts. And they can get ready for the first round, for the divisional round of the playoffs.
Sal, does it make you raise an eyebrow when the head coach comes out after that game and says, Jalen was hurting a lot? Now, obviously, they kept this thing under wraps pretty good in terms of his shoulder. They didn't tell us anything about it, but we all speculated it's got to be more than just a sprain. So they let him test it in a very controlled environment.
Yes.
Does it concern you moving forward that we're looking at something more than just a sprain that can be healed in a span of 10 days between now and next week?
I'm not going to speculate about the last part of your question.
Okay.
Okay, D-Gun, but this is why you and I think alike. So I wrote 3 notes 10 minutes ago before coming on the show based on, just thinking about this and research and talking to people. Number 1, Eagles stabilized the situation. Number 2, New York Giants proved they have plenty of fight in them up and down the roster. My 3rd note, to your point, Nick Sirianni should never have revealed how much Jalen Hurts. That's my 3rd note for this show, for your show. That's my 3rd note. He should. I mean, am I wrong about that, Rob? He should.
Absolutely.
Why? Why would you tip your hand?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I don't like to criticize this coach because I think he's a top coach of the year candidate. But boy, oh boy, why are we revealing? If anybody has the right to reveal how much he's hurting, it's the player.
Right.
Well, he did as much to Charles Davis, though.
he told Charles Davis that for 2 weeks he didn't throw anything that he was hurt. He did reveal that because they said it during the broadcast. I'm like, well, why can't the local guys know something like that? We were like in the dark about it.
I just don't think any of it makes sense, Sal. I don't know why Nick would. I don't know why Jalen would. I mean, they're usually so tight-lipped with everything and buttoned up. It's a weird thing, and now there's the doubt that creeps in a little bit going into this week and the following week. Whomever they play, they're going to try and just pound him into the turf anytime he runs the ball. I mean, they would anyway, but they're especially going to do it.
Okay, sure. So, I mean, how do they win the next game? Hopefully in the next 10, 11 days, he heals a little bit more and he feels a little bit more comfortable and he's in a little less pain. But, Rob, you got 3 games to go, Rob. I mean, I've never a professional athlete, obviously, and we got Barrett right there, but he's got 3 games to go. So, you
pull all the stops out.
That's it.
You got to fight through it, man.
There's no restrictor plates from here on
let me
out.
ask you.
No,
let
there
that
isn't,
baby
but,
go.
we don't. I mean, Gardner Minshew's not the option we're looking for. No.
No.
Well, let me ask you this, Sal. This is a young coaching staff, a lot of young guys. They only have 1 game of coaching experience, at the coordinator positions as far as being a team that's in the playoffs. Do they have enough? Do they know enough? Do you trust them enough going into this playoffs to make the right decisions? To call the right offense, call the right defenses. Special teams has been it's been a lot better than before. Do you trust this coaching staff?
Right now I don't. Because I wasn't impressed by the way they coached up or called the offense against the Giants. The passing attempts and rushing attempts should have been flipped, in my opinion. I go by the old Dick Vermeil postulate, pass completions plus rushing attempts plus pass completions. If that adds up to 50-5-0, you're going to win 90% of the games if you win the turnover battle. So I thought they should have flipped it. I think here's what, if I were them, I would self-scout real hard. What did we do wrong against Tampa last year? Well, they put too much on Jalen Hurts in that game.
Right.
Sure.
So now you have to look at Jalen Hurts and say, this Jalen Hurts right now, coming off a shoulder injury, is a lot like the Jalen Hurts that played against Tampa in the wild card game in terms of what he can do.
Wow.
Right, I'm saying that's
They had the ankle issue, last year.
right. So you have to look at it and say it's about the same situation. And I thought they put too much on Jalen Hurts last year. Of course, they got down early in that game. So, and they were away. And they were facing Tom Brady. But I just think they need to, whatever they did on offense against the Giants and against the Bucs in the wild card game, flip it. The other thing is they need to play fast. If you go back and look at that game against the Bucs, Barrett, they played a very slow offense. They were very deliberate coming up to the line of scrimmage. I think it's got to be up-tempo most of the time in that game right from the get-go. I'm talking about on January 21st or 22nd. They'll probably play on the 22nd. I'd be shocked if they played on Saturday. So let's say the 22nd. So he's got 12 days to heal. The restrictor plate is going to come off, but you got to help him.
Yes.
You got to help him. So, he had 8 targets to Devontae Smith, completed 7. I'm talking about last week against the Giants. He had 7 targets to Dallas Goedert, completed 6, all good. But he had 10 targets, completed just 4 to A.J. Brown. So, again, you got to flip that around, and you got to use the Smith and Brown more as decoys to open things up and underneath for Dallas Goedert and Sanders, and give Jalen Hurts a chance to complete balls up tempo, more like a point guard in basketball.
Right. How about the defensive side, Sal? They were a great team for most of the year at taking the ball away. And really the numbers on the season bear it out. They still have great numbers. I mean, they're third in takeaways, which is excellent. But they were like running away with this thing early. They haven't been taking it away as much. There's still some questions about the run defense, and I feel like there is part of me. It's like, man, this team was 14-3, and we're just ripping everything apart. But that's what we're doing. We're getting set for the playoffs here. But what's your sense of the other side of the ball? Because I think there is also a lack of appreciation for what Jonathan Gannon's done generally here, maybe not nationally. But what do you think about the defense?
I think I go back to my original point, Rob, and that is it was a very long season with big challenges on the back end. Losing your quarterback, losing Avonte Maddox, losing Lane Johnson, all of that in complementary football has an impact on how you play defense.
Right.
So, of course, you're going to see, I don't think any team in the NFL played at their highest level or at a high level for all 17 games. There were ups and downs, peaks and valleys for every team throughout the 17-game schedule. And what you saw were some downs, some valleys for the Eagles defense at the end of the season. And I think the bottom line is everybody was getting a little antsy because they hadn't clinched and Jalen wasn't 100%. And I think Jonathan Gannon was playing a little bit preventive in terms of the defense because of Jalen Hurts. They weren't out there scoring big points behind him against New Orleans specifically. They scored a lot of points against Dallas, and that of course will go down as a really bad game by the Eagles defense.
Well,
So
in saying that, I'm looking at us getting to me the best player on our team, Lane Johnson, back. Have you heard? And I know you're tied in. I'm assuming that Lane's going to be there because he's a Warrior. He's got to be there. We can't go into this game with Jack Driscoll. There's no way we can do that. So, have your sources told you that Lane is going to definitely play?
We'll take the definitely out. I think he's expected to play.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. But listen, they're going to win the first game at home, whoever it is. Okay, they're going to win the first game. And the way they're going to do that is to play fast, play different, be creative offensively and defensively. Mix up things into the offensive and defensive game plans that you haven't done. More blitzes from Gannon, more deception from Shane Steichen. Those kinds of things I think will help. And playing fast, I think, will really help on offense. And then play big, go real big. Max protect and go downfield. Take shots.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen a lot of pass interference calls, big yardage pass interference calls late in the season. And I think you can catch. Brady is brilliant at always doing that in the post.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Go big, play fast, play different. You win that first one, and this is what you play for. The NFC Championship game at home. That's what the whole season. To me, that's what the whole season is. I think that no matter what the divisional round playoff game is, whoever comes in, the Eagles will win that first one, and then you go from there.
So, Sal, Sirianni gives his guys some days off this week, and rightfully so. They've earned that. But now you have to deal with some of the distractions. Two names you just mentioned, Steichen again, and out interviewing for jobs elsewhere. When you look at the way coaches are hired nowadays in today's game, who do you think is more likely to leave after this season? Steichen or Gannon, or maybe both for that matter?
I don't think either one.
Okay.
I don't think either one. I think they need a little bit more seasoning, both of them. I think Shane Steichen could use another year of play calling if I was hiring. And then with Jonathan Gannon, you don't see a lot of defensive coordinators hired.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're coming with a guy who's going to run the offense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that. I don't.
Wow.
I think both of them they'll interview, they'll do well, but I think both of them will, they'll be in the hopper, but I think there's a lot of guys ahead of both of them.
Interesting. Sal, let me ask you about the Cowboys. It was obviously a bad way to finish with the Redskins, and Dak has thrown 15 interceptions in 12 games, and they couldn't get the running attack going last week. We've seen them at their best offensively when they played against the Eagles, but what do you make of them going into this week against Brady, a Tampa team, let's face it, that wouldn't be in had they played in any other division? What do you make of that matchup?
Well, I think the matchup is for sure Todd Bowles head coach and defensive-minded coach against Dak Prescott. And he's got a great track record when it comes to playing Dak Prescott. So I think they do a good job of stopping the run. They have two very good sideline-to-sideline linebackers. What the problem that the Bucs have is late in the game, they give up big plays like they did against the Rams last year. And they would have won that game if they had not given up that big play to Cooper Kupp down the middle of the field.
Yes.
They have a lot of and it's odd because Todd Bowles was a defensive back in his career. And for some reason, they're always having communication breakdowns on the back end. So I think it's a good matchup overall, except for that one thing of the Bucs against the Cowboys. I really do. And just, Rob, look at Brady's numbers. He has almost no interceptions. I don't know what exactly they are. He's got over 4,000 yards passing. He continues to be really accurate with the football. So the bottom line is Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator of the Cowboys. If the Cowboys want to win that game, Dan Quinn has got to think about, okay, how am I getting to Brady? Yeah. Because the Rams got to Brady the way you're supposed to get to Brady, right in his face, to the point where Brady was complaining to Sean Hockley, the referee in the Rams game last year, about him getting punched in the mouth by Aaron Donald or hit in the head by Von Miller. You remember him screaming and yelling at Sean Hockley? Yeah. And Hockley throws the flag of unsportsmanlike conduct on Tom Brady. Yeah. But that's what it took. Brady, but Brady won the point.
Yeah, right?
Rob, he got the penalty, but they stopped punching him in the mouth.
Yeah, he won the war. He didn't lose the battle. He lost the battle.
Against Sue. It was Sue that was doing it.
So you got to hit him. You got to hit him, and the Cowboys have got to hope that whoever the referee is not influenced by the lobbying campaign of number 12.
Great point. So Sal, he went this past year, which everybody considers a down year, 4,600 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 9 picks. It's still a 90 passer rating. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm looking at that. Who do you think is the likely opponent of the Eagles next week? Then I know this week I see the biggest. The lowest seed I say can make a biggest difference is probably the Giants against Minnesota. So, where would you say their most likely opponent will be?
Yeah, I think it's a hard question, Barrett, because it all depends on whether, the Bucs can beat Dallas. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So that looks like a pretty close pick'em kind of game down there in Tampa on Monday night. Talk about monster ratings for ESPN. Great. It's going to be a fantastic game. We'll be all glued to it for sure. So, so we won't know. The Eagles won't know. Philly won't know until they go to bed Monday night. That in and of itself.
That's crazy, right?
Right. The I-95 corridor from North Jersey all the way down to Wilmington to Derek Begun territory. Everybody's going to be watching the TV till late Monday night to find out who's playing in Philly. But Barrett, I think it could be the Giants.
Yeah.
Sal, how much does Brady worry you in the playoffs if you're an opposing player? You look at where he is right now. They're a mediocre team, but because of his savvy knowledge, you don't fool this guy. Should you be worried about a Tom Brady at this stage?
Absolutely. He's Steven Seagal. He's hard to kill.
I like that. I love it.
Where you at there?
He is. Really, come on. Even in Super Bowl 52, he's throwing a Hail Mary to Gronk, right? And they had 606 yards of offense. Yeah. And if our guy Brandon Graham doesn't do the strip sack on Brady, Jim Schwartz would be in the witness protection program right now.
He would.
It's true. It's true.
Where you at this weekend, Sal? Where you at this weekend?
I'm gonna follow the Giants to Minneapolis. I'm very, very interested to see this Giants team.
Yes.
After last week, I went back and I looked at a lot of the Eagles-Giants tape because I just wanted to see how hard the Giants were playing, the fight that they had, and they had a lot of fight. Brian Daboll has got them really believing. There's a lot of confidence in them. one of their defensive players said in the New York Post this morning, nobody wants to play us right now. Well, we can beat anybody right now. So they're imbued with that kind of confidence, and that's what you got to have as you're going into the playoffs. And the thing is, again, I did some notes before coming on. Jones is the key to me. Daniel Jones. Barrett, coaching matters, right? Yep. Coaching matters in the NFL. You can look at Daniel Jones, Rob. 8 turnovers this year, on pace to be the fewest of his career. Wound up being the fewest of his career. He has career highs, D-Gun, across the board in rushing attempts, 120, rushing yards, 708, and rushing touchdowns. Okay? And that, to me, is the difference between the Giants having a winning record and a losing record prior to Brian Daboll. Brian, if you remember, I don't remember the game it was. Daniel Jones threw a red zone interception in the end zone, and he kind of trots off the field with that Eli Manning kind of, aw shucks kind of trot, And Daboll's like, no, hold on a second, and gets right up in his face mask and says, no, that's not the way we're going to play now. You're not going to throw those picks anymore. Remember that, Rob?
Yeah, I do. It was early in the season, but it set a tone. Yeah.
It set the tone. Like, no, that's not the way we're going to do this. Right?
Yeah.
And coaching matters. Coaching matters.
Sal, he set a tone with the very first game. You remember he ends up going for 2 against Tennessee, but he's talking to his guys as he does it. He's saying to them, hey, just understand I'm going to do this if we get in. And they were all, you could just galvanized by the guy. I mean, we're going to have this debate a little bit later in the show, Sal, but man, you can make a real strong case for Coach of the Year with Daboll. And there's a lot of guys that are worthy candidates for sure.
There are. I thought Nick Sirianni was the runaway favorite, but I think Daboll is catching up to him a little bit. So Kyle Shanahan on his 3rd quarterback with Brock Purdy. I mean, those are the obvious candidates for sure. But you look at the coaching that Daboll has done with Daniel Jones. And, this is a year, and I think I came on your show in September. I said, this is the year of living dangerously in the NFL. And it proved to be true. 66 different starting quarterbacks in the NFL this year.
Crazy. That's
most
crazy.
Of any non-strike year. And you look at the 14 teams that are in the playoffs, only 7 of them, including the Giants, has the starting quarterback started every single game unless it was a coach's decision. So that's the reason to me. If you're going to look at one player, people will say Saquon Barkley.
Right.
But if you look at one player, it's always, to me, comes down to, is the quarterback available? 1. 2, is the quarterback turning the football over? And Daniel Jones checks both of those boxes, and I think that's why he's got the Giants in the playoffs.
Wow. No question about it. No question. Sal, listen, we appreciate it as always.
I'm done. That's it. It's over.
We'll keep. Hey, we're here till 3, man. We can keep you.
You want to come back later in the show?
Yeah, right. We'll revisit it. But no, Sal, we do appreciate it. But just lastly, at the door, do you confidence-wise, you feeling good about the Eagles just generally? Like they're poised for a deep run here?
Yeah, I think they stable. Once you're in the playoffs, as I said at the start, and you got Barrett there, and he knows it. It's a new season.
Everybody's 0-0.
Everybody's 0-0. So you got to get your mind right. You got to get your body right. Right? So the Philadelphia Eagles have now 11, 12 days to do that, Rob.
Yeah.
And they have a smart coaching staff. They have smart, tough players. They have players that want to win now. Sue, Linval Joseph, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson. Go down the list. These are guys that, hey, we're winning now, okay? Who knows what's going to happen, right, in a couple of years? And Jalen knows he's got to – and Jalen, he's about to cash in the big set of chips.
Yep.
Big set. Everybody's motivated.
Yeah.
Everybody's smart, motivated, tough. I do believe they'll win that first game and get into an NFC Championship game in Philadelphia. And man, we've been to a bunch of them. You don't want to play the championship game in Philly.
Yep.
Well said.
you
Well said.
you don't want to come in here and play.
No, and that's why it was so critical to get that game as ugly as Sunday was against the Giants. Bottom line. That was it.
Got to survive in advance. That's it now.
That's it.
Sal, I'm going to ask you before you go, because we talk about this week in and week out until we're sick of it. Give me your breakdown of this 49ers team that everybody puts on such a lofty pedestal, and in many ways, rightfully so.
Well, I don't think teams are blitzing Brock Purdy enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kyle Shanahan has done a really good job of deception, quick pace, getting the ball out of his hands very quickly. But I think he needs to be physically tested by somebody, and I don't know who that is going to be. I just don't. It may come down to Wink Martindale and the Giants. I don't think Pete Carroll and the Seahawks are capable of testing him physically.
Nope.
It may come down to Brock Purdy being tested physically here in Philadelphia if they arrive here in the NFC Championship game. So I want to see how Brock Purdy responds when he starts to get tested physically.
Yeah. Okay.
Well said. Well said.
All right.
Sal, listen, we'll look forward to your reports this weekend. You will be hopefully nice and toasty inside in the dome.
Why do you think I picked that? Why do you think I picked that?
I'm telling you, stay.
Dome.
Go through the tunnels, man. Don't even think about the sidewalk out there in that mess. But it'll be good. So Sal, the Giants, and the hosting or taking on the Vikings. But Sal, always great insights, man. Thank you very much for a couple.
Thank you, Sal.
Appreciate you, bro.
Peace. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Take
All
care,
right, bro.
Sal. That is the great Sal Paolantonio, ESPN national correspondent, and of course, always unbelievable insight on the Eagles, a team he covered for a long time, and the NFL in general. It was fun. Always great catching up with Sal.
Definitely.
Always enjoy his insights. That's for sure. All right, when we come back, guys, so we're going to dig a little bit more into this Eagles season, 14-win season, where they accomplished a hell of a lot. And I know there's some fear. I know there's some trepidation, but we're going to dive into some numbers.
Don't say fear.
That may, yes,
fear.
A little pause. Give it a little pause for some of the people. So we'll do that.
Reason for concern.
Reason for concern. I like that, Derek. All right, so we'll do that. We'll hit it when we come back a little later. We will get into the NFL in general and some of the comings and goings, who's in, who's out. We will debate the coach of the year like we talked about, but a bunch of other stuff to get into as well. So don't go anywhere. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network, Derek Barrett. I am Rob Ellis. All right, let's talk about Pro Action Restoration. Yeah, Pro Action Restoration is who you call if your home, your business, or a property you own goes through the experience of water, fire, smoke, or mold damage. They're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. Pro Action Restoration is just an unbelievable safety net in case you go through this. I can tell you from personal experience. My parents, this was 5-6 years ago, my parents' house, the basement got flooded. And it was a Saturday, and they were older people at the time. And, obviously they just didn't know what to do. They couldn't handle it. I got over there. I was trying to shop vac and wet vac stuff. Forget it. Called Pro Action Restoration on a Saturday. They got right over there. They fixed the problem. They cleaned it up. The price was right. The crew was unbelievable. And I knew right then and there, I need to let people know about Pro Action Restoration. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, it could be any of the above: water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation. You name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.